Hello, hello. Welcome tonight. Sorry about that. Sorry for being a single minute late. Trying to get everything set up. You probably see the dog walking around behind me sometime tonight. So I was just trying to get her situated, make sure she was comfortable before we got going. So let's see here. Failed to launch. Just trying to get my little Synergy server. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to Mastermind Academy. We're here for the DevOps Bootcamp. Tonight we're going to be doing some serverless stuff. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be talking about APIs, API gateway, all that stuff. There we go. Up, down, entering screen, leaving screen. Everything's working out there. We're good to go. What's up, 88 Opus? How you doing tonight? What's up, the Primipair? Welcome. Good to see you as well. Hope everyone's doing good. Just it was a long day. Today was our last day. We do sprints, so we do our work in 2-week cycles. So we're just kind of wrapping everything up. So usually the last day of the sprint is a little bit sometimes it can be a little bit hectic, just making sure everything's done before the next day. But let's take a look at where we're at and what we're gonna be doing tonight. Intro to DevOps. We're getting so far down. I have to scroll so far down now. It's pretty exciting. So we're in the fourth part of the Amazon Web Services flow. This is the part 4. This is the Lambda. This is a serverless lab. We're basically just going to be building out an API gateway with a couple of endpoints and showing you how easy it is to build out code using the serverless function paradigm. We'll learn about what it is. We'll learn about APIs, what those are, how we can use this to quickly build applications and to build tools to do whatever it is that we need to do. So that should be pretty easy, pretty exciting. So we'll tonight actually shouldn't be that long. So I'll give it a few minutes. I'll give people time to get comfortable, get your dinner. I'm just waiting for my food to digest as well. Get a little water. I don't have any coffee tonight. I might run down. Well, I might ask my wife if she can bring me some up. But I got some good energy right now. Today was my day off from working out, so I'm usually a little lethargic on days I don't work out, it's such a weird paradigm. But yeah, so let me get the slides out to you all. That's not what I wanted to go to. Serverless lab. Let's get the link. Share it. Not edited. I don't want anyone editing. I just want anyone to be able to view. Paste it in. So we have this. We're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna mess around. We're gonna just think of some cool things we can do after we go over everything to kind of get this set up. So tonight we're going to learn about serverless. We're going to be using specifically the Serverless Framework. There are other frameworks to easily deploy serverless functions to whatever service provider you like. So tonight we're going to be using the Serverless Framework because I think it's a quick one to get up and running with. And I actually don't even think I have it installed. So we will hold off on that. But how is everybody doing? I'm interested to know how everyone's week is going so far. We're only 2 days in, only 2 days down, but actually, I'm sorry, I had to stop the music for a second. The little bubble that comes up on your Spotify when it's like you have an update really bothers me. Is my upload suffering? On my end, it looks like it's fine. Let me see. It looks good from all the metrics. Is it stuttering for anyone else? I don't think so. My upload speeds look pretty good. Everything. Auto stream it at. Maybe try lowering the quality or something. Yeah, it looks good on my end. Maybe try refreshing. I'm going to come back in or something. But let me start the music back up. I don't know why that blue box really bothers me when like your Spotify has an update. It's been there for a couple of days and I keep forgetting to do it. So I was like, I'll just do it today. Music's back on. There we go. Put the shuffle back on. All right. Can we still hear it? Let me check, make sure we can still hear it. Looks like it's playing. All right. Excellent. Let me know if the quality goes back down. We're gonna learn about this tonight. Just to give you guys a preview of next week. Next week is we're gonna get into some stuff with Terraform. So Terraform is a huge DevOps technology right now. It's one of the big ones that a lot of people are using to provision infrastructure. So we're going to be doing just that. We're going to be doing just that next week. That and Ansible. So that should be pretty fun. We're going to be writing some code, basically writing code tonight as well, but we will also be writing it here. All right, Winokur. Yes, there should be some classroom stuff. So I actually have a substantial amount of classroom stuff that I've already input that was supposed to drop with a lot of other things. I'm going to try to take some time either tomorrow. I don't think I'll get to it tonight, but tomorrow to retroactively add all those things. I basically tried to add in some Python automation to automatically post to Google Classroom without me having to. I find the Google Classroom app to like put things in there is a bit cumbersome. So I tried to automate it, but I did things improperly. So that's why you'll get some things some nights and not other nights. All the stuff is already created. All the stuff is out there. I had to figure out a way to get it in. I have to do it manually. I've basically given up on using Python to do it, and I'm just going to have to do it manually to make sure it all gets in there. But the link to the slides, I'll post it again in case you missed the link to the slides. That's not it. Why did I copy this? This is not the link to the slides. This is the link to the slides in case you need it for tonight. But I'll definitely get you the practice material that goes along with this because, yeah, maybe on Friday. I forgot to tell people. I told people in the Python course I am streaming this Friday. Just a chill like office hour session and just kind of relax. Give people opportunity to ask questions that we couldn't talk about during the week that we maybe missed over, or things that are just unrelated to the specifics of the stuff that we did during the week. I'll play some games. I'll probably start off playing something myself, but then we'll probably play some group games like Jackbox TV games or something. If anybody else has anything that they want to do, we'll just do that. We'll just relax for a little while, just stay on as long as people have questions or just want to chat. But maybe someone can help me out on Friday. Maybe we can see if we can figure out why my Python script is not working for posting to Google Classroom. But cool. All right, one more minute and we'll go ahead and get started because serverless stuff is fun. And after tonight, basically, you should be able to have a decent understanding of what API gateway is and what kind of APIs are. We'll mess with a few, or at least have a light idea of how you can use them. And you'll get some hands-on experience actually writing against some API endpoints and how you can use these frameworks, specifically again the serverless framework tonight, to easily be able to create API endpoints for you to utilize. So it's gonna be pretty fun. I remember how excited I was once I understood what serverless was and the power of serverless. But let's go ahead and let's get started. Tonight's Serverless Lab, not my server. So serverless is a misnomer. We're going to learn about that. But how can you serve anything without a server? So we learned that basically a server was just a computer, a networked computer that had software on it that was designed to respond via web requests made over HTTP or HTTPS. So how can you serve these things without a web server? So what is serverless? Serverless computing is a cloud computing execution model in which the cloud provider runs the server. So we'll stop right there before the comma. So all it is, it's a cloud computing model in which the cloud provider is the person running the server. So this may already sound like other things that we do in the cloud. You know, when you have an EC2 instance, yeah, you're renting the server space, but you know, really they're running the server. It's kind of it's almost a managed service model for that. But the cloud provider runs the server. And what they do is they dynamically manage the allocation of machine resources. So this is This is where it differs a little bit from EC2 instances. They run the servers. They dynamically manage the allocation of machine resources. Those resources, again, are things like CPU and RAM and disk space, etc. So pricing is based on the actual amount of resources consumed by an application rather than on pre-purchased units of capacity. So I remember the last time I went over these slides, someone immediately got upset with me because this, to some people, when they see serverless, they automatically think of Lambda. And Diego said Amazon Lambda in there, and we're going to be talking about Lambda tonight. That's going to be the main focus. But serverless computing is not, Lambda is not the only form of serverless computing. So higher level, this is what serverless computing is. It is basically computing where you do not have to worry about to the user, you don't have to worry about the actual allocated resources that applications are running on. So what are some of the options for this serverless computing? So tonight we're going to be focusing on specifically serverless functions, or functions as a service. And so there are three main platforms for this. Each of the big providers has one. So the one we're going to be working on tonight is Lambda function. So AWS Lambda is what we're going to be focusing on. Lambdas are really powerful when paired with API Gateway. So we just put those two things together. Azure, this is the one for Microsoft. Microsoft version of functions as a service is, I think it's called Azure Functions. And I think Google's may be called the same thing. I think I forgot this last time too. Let's see, Google, GPC. So Google GCP, functions as a service. Let's see, I think it's called Google Functions. Oh, Google Cloud Functions. Are what they call there. So functions as a service, you don't have to worry about, basically the premise is you do not have to worry about the computer and the resources. You simply worry about the code that you write and deliver your code, deliver your functions to Amazon or Google or Microsoft Azure, and they execute the code for you. Again, you're not worrying about the underlying server. You don't have to install JavaScript. You don't have to install Python and worry about getting things set up. And these providers will handle those things for you. You don't have to worry about the server. So tonight, I said we're going to focus on Lambda and API Gateway. So in that case, what is Lambda? So AWS Lambda is an event-driven. So let's stop there for a second. Event-driven. We're going to learn on the next slide that Lambdas need to be triggered, but they are event-driven. They're driven by events, but it's a serverless computing platform provided by Amazon as a part of Amazon Web Services. So again, remember, it's event-driven. So it's driven by things that happen, and it's serverless computing. It's a computing service that runs code in response to events. So it responds to events and it automatically manages the computing resources required by that code. So this is why it's called functions as a service. And again, instead of passing along, entire application packages and things, you build out relatively small pieces of code that do specific things, and you trigger them when necessary. And it runs the code in response to a certain event. There's a number of ways that you can cause these events, and we're going to talk about those. But you don't have to worry about that underlying code. It automatically manages the resources required to run that code. So it's really easy to just run these things. They're very fast, they're very small, they're very quick. All right, so these are event driven. Remember that. This is very, very important. I think the first time I learned about Lambdas, that's what frustrated me, is that no one explained to me that these were event driven. And that they needed to respond to something that was happening. And I was thinking, I can write any type of code and just give it to Amazon. They'll run it for me. Not so much. It's a very specific way you have to create these things in the context of what Lambda is. And we'll talk about that. What's up, Stork? Stork, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. But triggering Lambdas, how do you trigger Lambdas? So these are these are some of the ways that you can, some of the events that can create the thing that these Lambdas are going to respond to. So in the last infographics down here, let's go back down. We said Amazon Lambda functions plus Amazon API Gateway. You're gonna learn about API Gateway shortly, but API Gateway is the first one. So API Gateway is a service in Amazon. We're gonna learn about APIs, but it can trigger Lambdas based on the response or based on the request that is given to this API Gateway. So you can use API Gateways to trigger Lambdas. Lambdas can respond to events that happen within S3. We've learned about S3 already. So we know that S3 is the simple storage service. It is an object storage service from Amazon. You know, you have your buckets and you can put objects in those buckets. Lambdas can be triggered based on things that happen to that bucket. It can trigger, you know, based on if new things are added to the bucket, if things are changed in the bucket. It can kick off, it can trigger, that counts as an event that can cause these Lambdas to respond. What's up, VTCN? Welcome. Thank you for the follow. Another thing, we learned about DynamoDB. So we learned about two different database services. We learned about RDS, which is the relational database service. But we also learned about DynamoDB, which is Amazon's NoSQL database services. Highly scalable, performant service. Events in DynamoDB can also trigger Lambdas. What's up, Duskstorm 97? I think it went away already. I'll see you in a second. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. Step functions. So step functions are really nice. And they're not something I see utilized super often by people, but they're pretty important. They're pretty great. So step functions, because these Lambdas need to be triggered, step functions allow you to basically set up workflows that basically can automatically trigger these Lambdas based on other scenarios in which you create. It allows you to, you know, manually kind of take action and set up a system of responses based on things that happen. You know, as one job finishes or runs and does this, a step function can trigger the next step in the process, and it allows you to create these process pipelines for everything to work super well. And then Lambdas can also be triggered by other Lambdas. So you can use one Lambda to trigger another Lambda. So you can write some functions that do some code, that do some processing, and you can use that to trigger another Lambda that continues and takes those things and moves forward with it. Stop there for a second. Does anyone have any questions? It's like, there's one question, but does anyone have any questions so far about Lambdas and triggering Lambdas? You don't have all the information about Lambdas yet. You know, the words function as a service don't mean anything without context, and we're going to contextualize a lot of stuff, but ask away if you have any questions. Just a quick question. Past chat asked about DynamoDB. A person in chat said DynamoDB was serverless. That is true. I was confused because there is a server. Then I started to wonder, if I learn DynamoDB, does that mean I can use DynamoDB only in the cloud? Correct. So that is a great question, 88 Opus. DynamoDB is a serverless service from Amazon. You do not get access to a server with Dynamo. They've kind of set up the service for you. You basically pay for a table or tables that you can, work with data inside of, but there's no server that these things run off. It scales itself. You do not have to worry about, you have to worry about capacity, read and write capacity, but you do not have to worry about the underlying resources which do those things. They abstract all that away from you. That does mean you can only use DynamoDB in the cloud. I do think there are some projects where you can replicate DynamoDB locally. But yes, DynamoDB is only a cloud-based AWS thing. NoSQL, there are other NoSQL platforms you could use to replicate or to get close. But yes, that is correct. But yes, it does all run on servers. And I think I have another slide on here after this. It does all run on servers. These are all running on computers. They're just, they're just abstracting away that functionality away from you. Instead of you having to install these services on, you spin up an EC2 instance and install these things on here, or worry about how much RAM and things are going on. Serverless pulls that away from you, and they manage all of that, and you basically deliver them, or only work with them on the things that you really need for your application to run. So that's a good point here. Any advice on how to check for DDoS attacks and logs? Yeah. So sorry, my dog, she pooted and it really smells bad. It's bothering me. But yeah, so DDoS attacks, there are a number of netstat commands you can use to do some quick checks to find out, how many connections are being made via certain IP addresses, and just find out how many things are being hit. And you can use that along with things like server load, server in conjunction with things like server load and memory usage to check, the overtime usage of things that are going on. Again, you can check IP connections and hits from specific IP addresses. In logs, you're probably going to be using some type of web server or web service. You usually can see, parse out massive numbers of hits, from specific places through logs as well. If you're getting DOSed, you will see a rapid number of connections from similar machine names. So just something to talk about. Okay, CloudWatch logs, the new metrics are deep in every service. Yeah, if you're set up right with CloudWatch logs as well, you can absolutely do that. You can definitely check out CloudWatch logs. If you set up a dashboard, a CloudWatch dashboard, it can be relatively easy to see, possibly, but you just got to make sure that you are monitoring the right things for sure. Amazon has some DDoS protection. I forgot what their services are called that they'll help you with. But yeah, those are probably the ways I would start to troubleshoot it. All right, let's move on past triggering Lambdas. So, actually a little bit more about Lambdas. Again, when we say functions as a service, and when we say functions, we really mean like a hello world function. Like we mean like when we learn Go and we learn functions, you can package up a piece of code. Maybe all your code does is it takes in a name, a first name and a last name, an address, and maybe it takes that information and it puts it into a format which your system likes, and it sticks it where it needs to go or something like that. But it's a piece of code. Hopefully it's pretty isolated piece of code, because Lambdas actually have a runtime maximum. It used to be 5 minutes. It used to be the process for a Lambda could only take 5 minutes, or the process will be killed and your stuff would never finish. That has been increased. I believe the current limit on Lambda runtime is about 15 minutes. I think it's 15 minutes now. I don't think it's gone up since then. How long can Lambda functions run? Pretty sure it's 15 minutes right now, though. Yep, it is 15 minutes, which is really nice. There is a lot you can do in 15 minutes with these things. There's a whole lot you can do with this being pushed up from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. Really opened up the door on what people could do. Also, Lambdas have they used to have a limited amount of languages that you used to, which they call runtimes. You used to only be able to use certain runtimes. Now they have something where you can bring your own runtime, but they have some main runtimes that they support, but you can bring your own, so you can use any runtime you want. So these languages, again, they're a couple versions of Node.js, Python. So we're probably going to do some stuff with Python tonight. Maybe we'll do it with Node, but probably do it with Python, Ruby, Java, Go. That's great. We could do some stuff with Go. The only reason we're not going to do it with Go tonight is because we didn't get into some of the deeper packages, like the HTTP package inside of Go. The problem is, I think that package is confusing up front for anyone who, that was your only foray into coding. That would have been confusing. I think Python or JavaScript is going to be easier to understand, because again, tonight we're trying to get the concepts rather than anything else. Then you got some .NET stuff. You need to use .NET, but again, you can bring your own runtime. But these are the directly supported things that come out of the box with Lambda. and will give you the most compatibility. I've never actually used the bring your own runtime option. So I don't know if it's foolproof. I don't know how great it is. Wow. Whoops. I don't know if it works well or not. So generally people like to stick with one of these, which is super nice. Okay. So I think that covers what we need to know right now about Lambda. Let's see. All right. On to the next. APIs. So API Gateway is used in conjunction with Lambda many times. It's not exclusive. You don't need API Gateway. Remember, you saw that list of things that does trigger Lambda. But commonly, people like to build web services with Lambda and API Gateway. So let's learn a little bit about APIs tonight, because APIs are really great and really important. And they really make it easy for us to do some cool things. So what is an API? An API is an application programming interface. API, application programming interface. Pretty simple. An application programming interface is an interface or communication protocol between a client and a server. Remember, client is usually the computer that you're on or computer that someone else is on that's making a request to your server. Excuse me. Intended to simplify the building of client-side software. So software that's not going to exist on the server is going to exist outside of that. So what is an API really designed to do? APIs help people on the outside of a system be able to consume information from that system. So why would you want to be able to do something like this? Again, most people have an API, like Twitter has an API, Airbnb has an API. People make APIs because they don't want to have to expose their systems to you. But they also want a format in which if you do need to request certain data that they make available to you, you can do this in your own way. So you can use these APIs, these application programming interfaces, to interact with a server or a system that you didn't build, that your system is not completely compatible with, to be able to grab information. And again, we're gonna use API Gateway to do this. But that's all API is. I think APIs make a little more sense, again, in practice. When you use them, I think they start to make some sense. So we'll stop there for a second. Huge fan of Lambdas. That's what's up. I love Lambdas. Started about 3 years ago. It's interesting that your day job was all in on AWS before you started DevOps. That's interesting. What's the difference between making an RPC call and an API call? So let's pull this up for anyone. That's a good question. That's an excellent question. Second billing cycle. Let's see. So RPCs, I'm not actually super well versed in RPC calls, but in distributed programming, computing. So we've been talking about distributed computing the entire time that we've been talking about the cloud, and how that means, different pieces of computing are both, not only are they separate, distributed in the fact that the processing isn't happening on the same machine, but it's also happening in geographically different locations. But in distributed computing, an RPC call is a common thing. Is when a computer program calls a procedure, a subroutine, to execute in a different address space. So the difference between this, the main difference between this and an API call is API calls are the protocol used to execute them. It's web-based. It is HTTP or HTTPS. To be triggered, and the paradigm behind them is web-based, based on these like CRUD commands that we're gonna learn here. But they're API HTTP methods that they're mainly made over web requests. So that was a good question, though. Maybe we can dive deeper into that. I don't know if that's the full answer at all. But let's talk about the kind of requests we can make to APIs. So web API HTTP methods. So you can make very specific types of requests to determine or to tell the service what you want to do with this data. So one is get, and it's all caps. That is how you retrieve data. If I make a get HTTP request, that is me wanting to retrieve data from the system. So my client computer can send in a get request to a server, and that says, hey, I want to get back some data. Post, we have another one called post, and that is used if you want to create data. So some APIs are open for you to be able to interact and to create data on someone else's system, or on a different system. So if your request contains a post method, or if you hit the post method, that is your attempt to create information. Put allows you to update information that is there. So if there's already information that's been posted, that allows you to update. Patch allows you to do a partial update. And I'm going to show you the difference between patch and put. And then we have delete. My dog is probably going to start barking in a little bit. 1 second. Oh, I don't want her to scare the cleaning people. Give me 1 quick second here to make sure she knows that she's here. Alert box. Cam link. Actually, 1 second. All right. She's probably gonna bark. So all good. We're all safe now. She's still gonna bark, but it's not gonna scare her. You see that? She's very friendly, but she can be scary. All right. Come on, girl. Hey, girl. I'll see if I can get her. Come here. Big mama. She sounds mean, but she's not mean. Look at her pretty face. She's so kind, even though she wants to be really angry. I'm keeping her occupied for a second. All right, she's all right. Okay, get you some water. All right, we'll let her be for a second. Cool. So yes, so we have get, post, put, patch, and delete. Yep, she keeps us safe on stream. She's actually extremely friendly. She's very protective behind glass. This is in the car. This is at home. Even here, like if my wife walks up, she'll still bark at my wife for no reason. But it's weird. Cool. All right, so those are the different HTTP methods that we have that we're gonna see how those work tonight. So, what is an API gateway? We learned a little bit about what an API was. That is it's this layer on top of a system that we can use or that people can create to allow other people to, or other systems to be able to extract data or to interact with their system. But an API gateway in AWS is responsible for request routing. So actually think about this like we were doing with Nginx, how we were routing requests to different places based on the URL or URI that we were hitting. API Gateway does something very similar here. So it routes requests, composition, and protocol translation. It provides each of the application's clients with a custom API. So API Gateway very simply allows you to create a gateway for your API endpoints, and it helps you route them accordingly. So it'll basically create an endpoint and create internal routing to be able to get those endpoints to the places that they need to go. This is before the cloud services and before things like Kong and some other stuff. I wouldn't say this was difficult to do at all, but it took a bit of setup to be able to create kind of robust APIs in the way that you're able to do it now. Now it's almost, you click a button and you can have an API set up that can respond to the endpoints in which you have set up. So not super important that you memorize exactly what API Gateway is. I think as we get into the lab, it'll make more sense. And we're about to get into it right now, actually. So what do we need to know right now? We need to know what serverless computing is. It's basically the same paradigm of cloud computing that we know of, where we kind of pay for what we use. But what the difference is that for serverless computing, the user no longer cares about the underlying services and managing the underlying services. They kind of just pay for what they use, but the provider now cares about that. So you pass along the resources that you want to utilize in computing, and serverless architecture, serverless applications kind of take care of the rest. You can be passing along anything. There are serverless databases. So Amazon does have, we talked about RDS. Amazon does in fact have serverless Aurora, which you could use to where you don't need to worry about your instance. They basically give you an endpoint and allow you to put whatever tables and things you want. You don't have to worry about the underlying resources. Lambdas are serverless functions. There's all kinds of serverless platforms. There's serverless container services like Amazon Fargate. But basically, again, you just tell Amazon what you need to run your application rather than the resources necessary, and let the provider handle the rest. Again, it's a misnomer. There are servers, in fact, running these things. It is not magic. It is not running on a server. It's just running on a server that you don't care about. You don't care about the server at all. It's not your business. Not something that you have to manage. Not something that you have to pay for in particular. So that is all serverless is. And then we learned about APIs and API gateway. APIs is an interface to allow a client or allow a client machine or client to interact with a server-side machine to be able to get data or modify data or interact with a system it was not built with. And again, APIs are very common. As you're moving through your career, you'll be utilizing other people's APIs very often. Also, remember that we said that AWS is just one giant API. It's just a bunch of software sitting on top of physical infrastructure. And so every time you see me do some stuff with the AWS command line, every time we're doing stuff like S3LS and stuff, and we're seeing this stuff, and we do an AWS EC2, describe? Describe dash instances. This is us hitting. These requests are doing some translation, and they're hitting Amazon's APIs. They're hitting endpoints that we did not build. And they're hitting those things and getting back information. So it's doing GET requests. If I wanted to create something, I could do a post or something like that. And it's giving us this information back. So that's really it. Again, for me, APIs were difficult to understand as a non-developer until I really started getting in and using them. It's like using FedEx instead of driving there to get it yourself. Yeah. It is like it. That's interesting. I've never heard it put that way. I guess it is like that. Instead of having to, go all the way to the place of origin, and learning how to, get clearance to get into the building and learn how to, find out what room your stuff is in, stuff like that. It's like utilizing FedEx to get it shipped to you. I agree. That is pretty good. I like that. So without us having to know the internals of AWS, gives us a method to make requests to get the information that we need. So that is high level what we need to know right now. So let's talk about how we're going to do this stuff tonight. We are going to be using the Serverless Framework. And again, there are a bunch of other frameworks to allow this. You don't actually need to use a framework. But I'm going to paste this because serverless is nice. It's really easy to use. We're going to be using the Serverless Framework, and don't be afraid by seeing pricing and stuff. It is free. It does have an open source. It has an open source component. So we're going to be using the open source free component to be able to do this. What is serverless? Serverless is it's a simplified framework that combines the needs any tough points of creating serverless functions and their interactions, and makes it so that you can easily define them. So it gives you a way to define the things that you need. It gives you a way to define the API gateway endpoints and things like that you need, and to easily be able to write code to respond to those things. So you're going to see here, we're going to be able to get up and running very, very quickly with our first thing. So I actually don't have this installed locally. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't think I have it installed locally. I'm going to go ahead and get this installed first. So you don't need anything else. It's made as a standalone binary. So if you get in here, if you click the link that I sent, just go to products and then CLI. What does CLI stand for? Command line interface. And then you could click download, but available now in Serverless Framework open source. So Serverless does have services that you can pay for, and they do like monitoring and all kinds of other stuff for you. But you can absolutely use the open source version, and it is what I use to do a lot of stuff. I will stick with it. There are other frameworks like Apex. Apex was a big one. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone using Apex in a while, but this was a big one as well. If you ever want to check out Apex, you can. And again, it'll be a different paradigm from what this is, but I do like Apex. It makes it relatively simple. And what else is there? You can do it within Cloudformation. So we haven't got to the infrastructure as code section yet. But Cloudformation is another way that you can do this. You can set it up through there, or Terraform or something like that. But I wouldn't recommend those right now. Something like serverless is great to get up and running very, very quickly. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it installed. Let's copy this and let's go down and let's get everything installed. So I'm gonna get out of here. It doesn't matter where I don't think it matters where you run this, but I'm gonna go ahead and get us into the directory. Go DevOps. Okay, they're serverless. All right, so I'm in the serverless folder, and I'm gonna go ahead and paste this in. So if you don't know what this command does, we know that, I think we talked about during the Linux portion, that curl is a command that makes web requests from the command line. And what these flags will do, the -O and -L, this will allow us to download this file that we're getting from here. So we do curl. It's going to hit this. It's going to download basically a bash file, a bash script, and then it's going to pipe that to bash. So it's going to go ahead and install that. So I'm going to hit enter. It lets us know, like right here, that it downloaded some data, and that it completed. And then it says installing serverless. Now it's downloading the binary, so it's going to go ahead and download the rest of this stuff. And then it gives us some more information. What is this telling us? It says added the following to /home/abrook/.bashrc. You'll see this. It may be different depending on what your shell is. So if you're using ZSH or something, it will put this information in whatever shell you're using. And so it lets you know what it added. It basically added things that will allow serverless to work every time you start up a new session. Lets us know that Serverless Framework has installed successfully. To start your first project, please open another terminal and run serverless. Again, this is because our current session does not have these things loaded, because they got this file right here only gets loaded when the session starts up. And then it tells us how we can uninstall it if we ever need to uninstall it. So actually we can type in reset to have it instead of opening up a new thing, but we could type in serverless. Oh, actually, maybe I do have to open up a new one. I'll close this so we're not confused. All right, so you type in serverless and it starts to give you some other information. So actually, I'll give you a few minutes first. If you're trying to follow along, I will give you a few minutes, to run that. So again, it should be pretty fast. If you're on a Mac or Linux, you should be able to just copy that down and do that. And it looks like On Windows, it wants you to use the chocolatey package manager, which is pretty simple to use. So I would try to set that up and just use chocolatey to install it. Or you could install it via npm if you'd like. So if you're someone who uses Node and you have npm installed, you can install serverless via this way. And this is actually the way that I've installed it before, that I've usually installed it. So I think this standalone installer is relatively new. I'm pretty sure. All right. So again, and for most machines, you just have to run this one command and it should get everything done for you. So we can run serverless. And it will start to take us, depending on the folder you're in. If there are no serverless projects where you are, it will start to take you through setting up a serverless project. So that should be fun. But we can do things like, if you don't know what to do, we can do something like serverless help to find out the things that we can do, and let us know how to use it. So you can see here, we got a bunch of stuff here. If we want to learn how to use it, configure serverless, configure credentials, tab completion, all this other stuff. You can set all this stuff up, or you can find out what you want to do through the help screen. But just so we don't have to type in a lot, I'll let you know right now that serverless has an alias for serverless, and you don't have to type in serverless every time. You can just simply type in SLS, and it's the same thing. So SLS and serverless is just an alias that gets set up. So it is just a shortening of serverless. So no project detected. I start to run it. Serverless says no project detected. Would you like to create a new one? I'm gonna click yes, because it's really nice. There are easier ways. There are easier ways to do it quickly through the commands here. So I could have used the create command to create a new serverless service, but they also give you this little walkthrough, which is super nice, and can be super helpful if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna click yes, absolutely. Let's go ahead and set up our serverless, our new serverless project. And then it takes you through another step. It says, what do you want to make? AWS Node.js, AWS Python, or other. And if I choose other, I'll have some options for selecting those. Tonight, let's just go with Python. We're doing a Python boot camp. We'll go with Python. Python will be relatively easy to read for everyone up here so far. Sorry. Just moving this out of the way. Oh, you can't see this, but I'm just moving something out of the way up here. Actually, I need this. Cool. All right. So what do we want to call this project? So we're working on a project tonight. We can call it whatever we want. This is just going to be the folder that gets set. It's going to be the way that that Amazon actually tracks some of this stuff, the way that it sets some things up by default. We can just call this stream API. Let's do that. All right, so project created successfully in Stream API folder. Very simple there. You can monitor, troubleshoot, and test your new service with a free serverless account. This is Serverless, again, trying to push their product. We do not need this functionality right now. So if you don't intend on using, I do think I have used it before. It is valuable. It is a valuable service. It is free for you for a while. So you can do that if you want. If you want to check out, again, their dashboard and stuff, and you want to log in and have the features that they have available to you. But I don't care about that right now. So I'm not going to enable this. I'm going to hit in for no, and I'm going to hit enter. You can run serverless command again if you change your mind later. So you can change this later if you would like things to be going through serverless. All right. Would you like to set up a command line tab completion? So we talked about in the Linux portion, you can start typing something in, you can hit tab, and it would complete out the word or command based on what the options available to it were. I do want this functionality. You can select no if you don't. I'm going to say I do want it. I don't really need it, but I want it. And then it's going to ask you what shell, bash or ZSH, so it can set it up by default. This might be a little bit difficult if you're on a Mac. So if you're on if you're on a Mac, you may not know if you're on ZSH right now or bash. The way you can check is if you open up a new command line and you echo $shell. This will tell you what your default shell is for most people. Mine is unset right now. But for most computers, it should give you a default shell and show you what the default is, and then you can check this accordingly. But I want this set up for Bash and not ZSH. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. What's up, Shazlin? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. So we set up completion with this, and then it says we will install auto completion to this file. Is that okay? And we're gonna go ahead and yes that bad boy up. Command line tab completion was successfully set up. Make sure to reload shell. You may uninstall it by running this. So we're all good. It's letting us know if you want to use it though, that we need to, oh yeah, sorry. That makes sense. That was, man, I'd be surprised at myself sometimes. I definitely knew that. But yeah, so capital for all environment variables in here, they're going to be capitalized late nights. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's start to set some stuff up, or let's see what this created. So actually we're going to open up a new one, a new shell window, a new instance of the shell. Just because we have the bash completion here now, which we probably won't even use, but let's check that out. Streams, serverless. Is this not where I was? Or did I exit out before I was ready? Well, we'll do that again real quick. It should have created a folder here, but let's see. No project detected. Create a new one. We'll do it in Python. Again, we'll call it stream. Pretty sure this is where I was, but we'll see. Nope. All right, cool. So when you do that, it goes ahead and it creates this folder for you. Or whatever you called the project, it goes ahead and creates the folder. Let's go into this folder and let's see what we have available to us. All right, we have a git ignore, which is great. So it sets up a git ignore file because it knows that you're probably going to want to commit this to version control, source control. We have a handler.py and we have a serverless.yaml. So we have two different things here. This handler.py, a .py file, for anyone who doesn't know, is a Python file. So that is our code, and a serverless.yaml. Let's take a look at them both and talk about what we have here. Handler there, serverless. All right, so we have, actually let's take a look at them one at a time. So this right here, this is the handler.py file. So this is a quick, this is just a quick Python file that is set up to return information from a request that's made to it. So in Python, this def keyword defines a function. So this is a function called hello. It takes two inputs. So it takes event and context. So one, we said that Lambdas are event driven. So this function, these functions here this is going to be our Lambda. And so that the thing that kind of kicks these things off is an actual event, and those are passed into a Lambda, and you can use these to grab information or to know what's going on. Context is a similar paradigm to what's kind of happening, the context of the run, the context of the kickoff. We'll dive a little bit deeper into context, even though we're not going to use context much tonight. It's going to be important to know. It's going to be important to know about context. So here's what we're going to do next. We have this body here. We have a variable called body, and it's equal to this. So this is actually JSON. We talked about JSON before, I think, which is JavaScript object notation. And it's basically a way to kind of structure data with key value stores. So basically in the body, we have a message. That message is go serverless v1.0. Your function executed successfully. And then we have an input. And that input is actually the event. We have a key of input, and it's actually this event that's passed in here is going to be put as the value of the input here. And then we have this response here. We have a body, we have a response. The response is just some more JSON. The status code is equal to 200. The body is json.dumps body. And so body is this. Json.dumps just allows you to this be able to bring in and parse that data and dump that out to where the screen is. And then it's going to return this once it's done. So return the response. So not important that you understand what that code does, but just wanted to run through it really quick. This is just some extra stuff here. Use this code if you don't want to use the HTTP event with the Lambda proxy. So I'm actually going to delete all of this. I'm gonna delete all the bottom stuff. It gives that stuff to you by default. The framework gives you a lot of these things by default. All right, so we're gonna save that just because that's the default. That's the default right there. So then we're gonna take a look at the serverless YAML. So serverless YAML has a lot of other stuff in it. It says, welcome to serverless right here. It says this file is the main config file for your service. So config file is short for configuration file. So this is gonna be the main place where you set up your configuration. It's very minimal at this point and uses default values. You can always add more config options for more control. We've included some commented out config examples here. Just uncomment any of them that you want to get that you want to have that config option. So basically, they give you a file full of stuff that you can use. They'll give you some stuff that works right out of the box, but then they give you a bunch of extra that you don't need, but you can use. Oh, yeah, sorry. So there's actually not much in this file that's uncommented. We have a service name, which is Stream API. You can still change that here no matter what. That doesn't matter. You can change it. And then we have something called a provider here, and the name is AWS. So serverless is not an AWS thing. It does not only work with AWS. It works with other serverless providers as well. So provider allows you to tell serverless, it allows you to configure this project to work with AWS. And then we talked about those runtimes. We talked about the languages that you could bring, or that Lambda actually supports. Python is one of them. So the runtime that we're going to be using is Python 3.8, and so that is the version that we care about, and that is what we're going to be using. And then everything under here is just extra things, extra configuration that we could utilize if we wanted to, but we're not going to utilize any of that right now. But then we're going to go down here to see other places where there is uncommented things, like here. Functions. Hello, handler. So what does this mean? So the top section up here allows you to define a service. Then it allows you to define a provider. So it lets you know what service is going to be used to kick this thing off or going to be processing this. And then down here, we have a section where you are actually talking about and you're defining your functions and your functions that are going to be used here. So we've defined a function called hello, and we let in that function, we set up a handler, or the file that's going to be handling requests to this function. And this is the handler.hello. And so let's take a look and see if we can see what that means. And actually, you can see in the rest of the file, everything else is commented out. There are other things that we can use, but right now, it's a pretty simple file. Very, very simple file. If we didn't have all this extra stuff, this would be it would look pretty simple to you. So what is this handler.hello thing? We looked in the serverless YAML. Handler.py is the handler. So when you see handler.hello, it knows that file called handler, whatever the extension is what we want to use. So let's take a look at that again. Remember, it said handler.hello. So handler, which is this file, .hello. Hello is the name of the function that exists inside of it. So the handler.hello is referencing this hello function right here. So what we can do now, let's go back to the serverless. Now that we've seen kind of what it creates by default. So it created all this stuff for us by default. It created all this stuff for us by default. And let's go through what they have here to kind of see some stuff. Service dashboard, I don't care about that. Sorry, I told you when I don't work out, I get a little bit tired. The working out really gives me it gives me some energy. All right, overview. All right, we don't need to do this. Actually, cool. So we have our two files here, really great. But let's see what they do. Let's see what they do first. So let's help. One second. I'll put list, plug in, that's all stats. Cool. So what's great about this is another thing that you need to have done. We talked about it during the first session with IAM. If you want to follow along with this, is you do have to have your CLI set up to run this properly. You do have to have your Amazon Web Services command line set up. So if you type in AWS, you should get an output like this instead of AWS not found. The thing that you need to be able to do that is you need to first go into AWS and set up a user. If you already have a user, you need to grab your credentials or create new access keys if you don't have them. We're just gonna log in real quick just to show you where to do it at. It's not my password, just so you don't, everyone might be freaking out. He's putting his password. I'm not putting in my password. That was my two-factor auth right there. So you would basically go into IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. Again, this is how you manage access to your stuff. And you can set up a user. If you already have a user, you could grab the key from there. And users are gonna need some access. So I'm just using this is my user for this account. And again, you can confirm once you grab that access key and stuff, you can go and you can type in AWS configure, and it'll take you through a setup process where you can paste these things in, and you can set up your user. Cool. But as long as you can do like a AWS S3 LS or something, as long as you can make an AWS call, even if it comes back with nothing, as long as it doesn't give you an error, you're probably good to go. I like serverless over SAM too. Yeah, I definitely prefer. So anyone who doesn't, we talked about Apex. I don't know why we didn't talk about SAM. SAM is the serverless application model. SAM is actually created by AWS, I believe. Pretty sure. But SAM's good. Sam's good as well. The syntax is pretty clean, but I definitely prefer serverless. I prefer serverless for sure. Also, it's just something you can also check out. So we should change it from sup to hello or what's up. We should definitely do that. We'll do that. So let's deploy it first and then show people how easy it is to set it up. So what's great about the serverless application model is you can simply do something like this to deploy it. SLS deploy. So it's going to run through and it's going to check some stuff. It's going to check for dependencies. It's going to check the current state of your things in AWS. You see here it says creating stack and checking stack, create progress. So we haven't talked about this yet, but this uses Cloudformation to do some stuff. So let's see. Best way to show you. All right, so Cloudformation, create and manage resources with templates. So Cloudformation is an AWS service which allows you to be able to, I forgot I need to delete all these old stuff. It allows you to define via YAML resources in Amazon that you want and their configuration, the way you want them set up, and you basically run this code, you deliver this code to Amazon, and they provision you real resources. This framework does the same thing. So it basically uses Cloudformation, that YAML and stuff. It generates Cloudformation for you to be able to spin up resources. So this was just what we spun up. Mastermind Python Lab Dev is what we spun up. So let's take a look at this stack and see what we have here. Cloudformation stack, templates for events. Let's see what's in here. It created an API gateway. It created a Lambda. Actually, I'll show it to you real time. So it created a bunch of stuff for us. And as you can see here, it gives us some information. It says stack create finished, uploading CloudFormation file to S3. So it generated this CloudFormation file for us that set up certain things for us. And it uploaded it to S3 so we have it available later if we need it. Uploading artifacts, uploading service stream, zip files. So Lambda code, even though it's serverless, it can be zipped up and thrown into an S3 bucket. And Lambda is a service. It can consume it right from an S3 bucket. So we're going to log into Lambda and kind of show you a little bit how that works. When you can set up a Lambda manually. You don't have to do it through this, and you can set it to come from an S3 bucket. Updated some stuff, let us know that some things were finished, and then it gave us some service information to let us know what the service name is called, the stage of it. You don't know about stages yet. You're gonna learn about stages in a second. The region, so where it is geographically, US East 1, that's Northern Virginia. That's what's closest to me. The name of the stack, which is this, how many resources it deployed, and then anything else you may have in here. We don't have a lot of other stuff in here. It lets us know what functions are in here. So again, this is functions as a service. This is the only function that we have in here right now. So how do we use this thing? What do we do with this? So let's go to API Gateway. And here we go right here. We have a singular thing here. The Dev Mastermind Python Lab is what we just set up. It lets us know what is going on. It gives us some information about it. We can click on it. Oh, this is old. Am I pushing to a different account? Am I even in the same account? Hold on one second real quick. Northern Virginia, this looks wrong. But I just saw the stack update, didn't I? Hold on, let me make sure I'm in the right AWS account. API Gateway, when was this updated? What did I want to do? I want to go back. I want to go back. Cloudformation 9/25. Oh, that's last year. All right, so I'm in the wrong account. What account am I in? On the console. Oh yeah, I was in the wrong account. This is the original user that I set up that does not have any type of cool stuff. 1 second. That is embarrassing. Not embarrassing. It's really not embarrassing. Let me just see if I remember my login. All right, cool. This is my other account. So if we go into Cloudformation, all right, Stream API Dev. I was like, yeah, we give this a different name. So Stream API Dev. This looks better. This is what we want. So let's go into API Gateway. And when we get into API Gateway, whoa. Check these APIs. We don't have any APIs. Oh, actually, we don't have any APIs because we didn't set up any APIs with our configuration. So we deployed that. But what it should have in here for us, it should have a Lambda for us. So what it should have done, while it did not create an API gateway for us, because we actually didn't set that up yet, it did create this. Lambda for us. And we can actually see in here, this is actually the same code that is in our file. And you can actually edit it right in Amazon if you want. If you needed to, we're not going to do that. We're going to use serverless to update it, but it did spit this out. So this is what the serverless framework will do for you by default. It'll do that for you by default. Is CloudFormation like Terraform? Yes, CloudFormation is like Terraform. CloudFormation is AWS specific. It is Syntactically, it is much more difficult to understand. I find that it's very difficult to understand. Terraform, I think, makes a little more sense in the way that it's written. Its domain specific language, HCL, makes it a lot easier to understand. But yes, they are both. They're both infrastructure as code tools used to provision infrastructure. So again, they're both like shopping lists. You basically write down all the things that you need from Amazon, the way that you need them configured. I need a Granny Smith apple, and I need it to be really green with 0 brown spots or just 1 brown spot on the backside or whatever. Like you tell it exactly what you want. You pass it to Amazon, it gives you exactly what you want. Cloudformation is Amazon specific. Terraform, because of the way that it's built, it's modularized. It has multiple providers, so it works for many more resources. It works for Azure, it works for Google Cloud Platform, it works for all kinds of stuff. Anything you can build for it is what it can do. So I missed the CLI command to create the API in AWS. So we haven't created the API yet, but we did push the Lambda. We pushed everything that we had. So it was serverless deploy is what you're gonna do. Serverless deploy is what you're gonna run. So all we did, we haven't changed anything here. We simply created a new project, took its base level things. We didn't do anything fancy, and we did SLS deploy, and it went ahead and it went and deployed all the stuff for us. So we haven't actually set up an API yet. We set up basically this function. We haven't set up these like API endpoints, so we actually don't have an API gateway yet. So remember how I said these API endpoints respond to certain requests. So I'm going to take a look at the serverless YAML. This is our configuration. And if you scroll down a bit, I didn't delete all this other stuff because we're going to use it. You can see this here. So we're saying we have a function, and that the function is called hello, and it has a handler, which is in that handler.py file, and it is the hello function. I'm going to delete these lines because these are annoying. But we said that Lambdas are event driven. They need to be triggered. So you have to specify the event that you want to happen for this function to be triggered. So this is all we're gonna uncomment. So we're gonna uncomment the 4 lines. So the events line, the HTTP. So that's hypertext transfer protocol. That's the method that that's the protocol we're gonna be using. The path and the method here. So what does this say? This helps you define an event, and it helps you define an event. Sorry, I need to move this out of the way. It helps you define an event that this will be triggered by. And so we said API gateway is a trigger. It's an event that will cause this to work. So this essentially adding these lines will allow you to now create an API gateway method. It's actually going to be using the get method. So remember, we learned about the different HTTP methods that are here: get, post, put, patch, and delete. So right now, if we just do this get method that we're going to do here, and so by default, when you go to a web page or something, like get is actually the default method. So if we make a get request to whatever this path is, and so we can set the path to be whatever we want. We're about to change this. Let's just call this, undo. We'll call this just hello. Let's call it /hello. We'll call it /hello. So basically, I don't think I need the slash, but I'm gonna leave /hello there for now. So basically, this is going to set up an API gateway endpoint. It's going to set up a HTTP protocol path that will allow us to interact with this path. That's going to give us an endpoint /hello that we can make a get request to. So we can make that API request. We can make this HTTP method request, and it will respond only when we go to this endpoint, and it will respond only when we go to this endpoint with this method, and then it will trigger this function up here. It will trigger the hello function. So let's go ahead and deploy that. So we save this, and then the only thing you need to do to redeploy is just do another SLS deploy. And so it'll go through, it'll check the things that you have, it'll check what's different from what you have now, what changes you made, and it'll go through and it will update this thing. So checking stack update in progress because it needed to make some updates, and I'll let it go through and I'll let it do that. It happens pretty quick. This one's going to take a little bit longer because we don't have the API in place. Because now we've created this API, or at least this API endpoint, it has to create an entire API gateway for us. And you can see it's still happening pretty fast. And it gives you the endpoint right here. So I'm going to show you in Amazon what that looks like, but very easily, we've already created that immediately. Where do you work? I work at a software company called Fearless in Baltimore. Head over to fearless.tech. We are usually hiring. We build software for the government, mostly software with a soul. So check it out. That is where I currently work. He's unemployed, but this week you can hire him for $160K a year. That's not true. But I like that you're riding for me. I like that. I like that you're, I would have given you a finder's fee if that worked. I wrote the voting machine software. I did not write that software. I don't know. I'm interested to do a case study on, these voting machine tech. Like, I feel like I just feel like it can't be that hard to write software for a voting machine. Like I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world, but I just can't see it being that hard, but we'll see. So yeah, it is $190K a year and $1 million investment in master. I love that. You guys everyone here now represents me on a legal level. So I'm taking all my legal advice from you all. Missed the change you made. Can you go back quickly? Absolutely. I can go back and look at the change we made. So by default, so if you go down to line, you skip a bunch of stuff. You go down to line, or it puts all this extra comment stuff in here. If you go down to where your function is, it'll be around line 60. Look for this here. So in between, there was a bunch of stuff in between here. There was a whole bunch of stuff in between these lines. But look for underneath that function section, there should be a function that says hello. Find the lines. They're commented out by default. They have a hashtag in front of them. Delete the hashtag that's in front of events, HTTP, path, and method. So uncomment those 4 lines, and then change the path to whatever you want it to be. You can make this path whatever you want. You do not have to make it /hello. Just simply make it anything. And so I'll leave that up. I can leave that up for a second for you. So they give you a lot of other options in here. I could delete all this stuff. We're actually not going to use any of this. There's a lot of options in the serverless framework, but you're going to see how little of them we can use to create some pretty cool endpoints. So yes. It is really, really nice. Yeah, you can make a sub, bro. Actually, I like that. We're actually changing this. Actually, let's see it work first. But I'll change it, but I won't redeploy it. I like that. I like sub, bro, here. But it gave us the endpoint right here, and it let us know that it was a get endpoint here. So the method that this endpoint is going to be using is the get endpoint, and it let us know where we could go to do it. So if I click on it, I actually get a bunch of information back, and it let us know that it was executed successfully. And then we got a bunch of other stuff here. We're going to go through that in a second, but let's see how this looks inside of Amazon. Inside of Amazon, again, we made an API gateway. So before, we had no API gateways, but now we didn't even have to do this. We didn't come in here and create an API. This framework did it for us, and it set this up. And these can be a little bit difficult to, it takes some time to understand the visual flow of API gateway. But it lets us know that we set up an endpoint at /hello, and that a method that we used was a GET request. And this is a visual representation of what's happening here. So it's basically saying the client, which is my computer or anyone's computer that's making this request. And I'll share this in a second. I'll share the endpoint. You all can hit it yourselves. But it's showing an arrow to the method request. So the method request goes through this endpoint, this /hello endpoint. That triggers basically the integration that we're using is this Lambda proxy. What's up, Mountain Dew Zero? Thanks for the follow. Welcome to the channel. And then that goes and triggers this Lambda. I know it's sideways and it's really hard to read here, but this is the Lambda that we set up. Stream API dev hello. This is the Lambda that we created. And then the response comes back. So the request comes in, goes through, it triggers this, triggers the Lambda, that processes, and then it comes back out and sends a response back to the client. So this is what's happening when we hit that endpoint. It's just going like this, processing over here and coming back to the client. So let's look at what we got back when we hit that endpoint. First thing we got is this message, go serverless v1.0, your function executed successfully. That looks very much like the code that we have here. What's up, elitist games? You're probably the most elite, but I will strive to be more elite. What's up? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. Let's see, Vim. Let's look at our handler again. The handler, again, is the thing that's handling the request. This is basically taking in the request and delivering stuff back. So take a look at this. We're getting a body here and we're getting a response. So we're setting up a variable called body here, which is this stuff here. And this looks very familiar to us. And take a look at our response. Our response is actually a status code and the entire body. So we're getting a 200 back. We're checking for the status code and the body's getting delivered. So basically what's happening is you're seeing the message and then you're seeing input and then you're seeing everything that's in this event basically. And this event has a bunch of stuff in it. Has a whole bunch of stuff in it. So look at this JSON. The message is here. And then it has this input here. Yep, I'll pull it back up. But it has this input here. And input has all of this stuff, everything in here is all the stuff that is in the event. And so I know it's a lot of stuff, but the event is what is important. It has a lot of information in it that you can utilize to make this great. But so we are getting back exactly what our handler is doing. So we're making a request to our API Gateway endpoint. It's running through and it is triggering this code here. This code is actually packaged up in a Lambda, and then it is passing us information back. I'll show you how we can change that in a second. But I'll pull up my serverless YAML. Again, I'm actually gonna delete some of the extra stuff. So it's not so much extra stuff in here. I'll leave that for now. But what you care about, I'm gonna delete this. All right. So this is what it looks like here. This is the part you care about. The only part that you care about in here was the function section. And again, you wanna, these lines they already exist, but you need to comment them out. They're a little bit below. There's some stuff in between them. So absolutely, I definitely, this part can be hard to follow for sure. So we've changed the endpoint now to sup_bro instead of hello. We had it as hello. We've changed it to sup_bro. We're going to redeploy this in a second so that we have a new endpoint. And then we're going to start changing some stuff. We're going to start changing some things that it's returning. And then we'll start building out more endpoints that do different things, that do more stuff. And so you can start to see how you can easily create applications and create endpoints that do really great things that allow you to do things very quickly. How do you get to that menu you were just at on AWS? Let's see here. I'm assuming you mean this menu right here. I'm assuming you mean that. So the way you get here is you go to API, you go to services, type in API Gateway, because that's what we are doing. It takes you to API Gateway. Click on the API that you created. Just click on this right here. And then it'll bring you to this page, and then you just click on the method that's under here. So we're gonna get more endpoints in here tonight. Whatever the method is at the bottom, you can just click on it, and it'll give you the little output of what it looks like. And again, it actually took me a long time to realize it was showing the flow of request. And I think it's because I am a visual person, and because this was sideways, I never even looked at it. I never even saw that this was the Lambda right here that it was hitting. Which is really annoying. I was like, how is it touching my code? I don't understand. But again, API Gateway is just a router. Really, it just routes requests. So basically it's setting up this gateway, and it says, hey, whenever I receive a request to this endpoint at /hello, that's using a get method. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pass it along to this Lambda because you've enabled it that way. That is an event that we're going to use to trigger this, and then just return the response back to the client. So that's all we've done so far. So we can create any number of these endpoints, and we can create all kinds of Lambdas to do different things. We can also use the same Lambda to respond differently to different requests. And let's go ahead and let's do just that. So first, let's go ahead and change some stuff, just so we can see how easy it is to change some stuff. So we already changed the path. It was /hello. Now it's /sup bro. So maybe we want to change. Let's save that. We'll put in the handler, not an empty file. A caps lock on. Actually, let's just open up both files. We want handler. All right, so we could make it not spit out this event if we didn't want to. But right now that's nice. And we can say, sup mastermind academy, 3 exclamation points. Your function's executed successfully, and we'll get back. We'll check for that code. So we'll just save it. So now this is our actual code. This is what we're editing right now in this handler. This is our actual Lambda. This is the function. Again, functions as a service. We literally wrote a singular function, one function here that does one thing, and we're packaging that up for Amazon to run with us. And again, it could be more functions. It's going to be more functions later, but yeah, you just package up a good piece of code that can be executed. And then again, how do we update? You simply go SLS deploy, or type in serverless deploy. And so it's going to go through. It's going to make all of our changes. So if it needs to, what's nice about this is if it needs to, for some reason, tear down the API to make the changes, it'll do that and create a new one for you automatically. And it'll do all that for you. And then it'll give you the output, which is really nice. So it's going to create our new API gateway endpoint. It's going to remove the one that's /hello, change it to /sup bro, and then it's going to deploy new Lambda code that has our new message inside of it. So you can see here we have this endpoint again, and when we click on it, it takes us right here and it says Sup Mastermind Academy, your function executed successfully. So this is here to so that you can see and confirm that the code that we wrote, or that we modified, we didn't write it from scratch, is actually what's returning here. And the reason why this the input is getting so much output, like the reason it's getting so many different things, is because it is important to know. It is very important to know that the paradigm of Lambda and serverless functions are these events in this context that basically get passed into it that you can use to make things happen or to get information. And these things are actually very important. This event and this context are also the reason why we're not using Go. Even though we used Go originally to learn how to code, we're not using Go because again, learning how to use the HTTP package with Go, along with the way that you need to parse information out of this event or context, can be very, very confusing. And I don't want anyone I don't really want you focusing on the code tonight. The code that we're writing isn't important. Again, just understanding, that when we make these changes, when we're doing certain things, like overall, the high level, what's happening is more important. So we got that. But let's take a look at what does come through in the input. There's a bunch of stuff that's in here. The method, the path. It's got these headers here. So a lot of different stuff in the headers. If we scroll down, something that's really good is that is a common practice with a common thing you would do with an API is you would accept query strings. You would accept these query string parameters, and basically you will pass in parameters into or these path parameters. I'll show you the difference between path parameters and query string parameters. But you can build responses. You can use that to take in information and parse out that information to do different things with. which is super duper nice. And first time I saw this, it like blew my mind. I was like, this is actually amazing. So what are query string parameters? Actually, I'll show you two different things. Take a look at, it's probably too small on your screen right now, but in the same URL here, to pass in query string parameters, and again, query is to search, you put in an exclamation point. This is a paradigm that exists kind of across the board, and everything that comes after the question mark is kind of the query strings, the parameters that are being passed into it. So I can type in something like name, and set that to a value. So basically, you're gonna pass in some keys and some values, and you're gonna pass in some parameters. I'm gonna pass in a parameter called name. I'm gonna set it equal to Aaron, and we'll start with that. And set an equal sign that looks like it. So I'm gonna hit enter here. All right, and everything still loads. That looks good. Everything still loads. And let's scroll down a bit. Back to our query parameter section. And take a look at this. Before, query string parameters was empty. But now query string parameters has name Aaron. So that event basically took the URL that I have, and it says, hey, I know this question mark here means you're querying for some information, and I see that you made a key and a value, a key of name and Aaron. And so it parses those things out, and it puts it into a way that I can use it. Again, what you're looking at right here, this syntax, these curly braces and this key value store stuff, this is JSON. This is JavaScript object notation. So JavaScript is kind of what runs the web. That's why it's a commonly used format. But it makes it really easy to work with data like this. A lot of APIs are JSON, that they will return JSON to you, which is super nice, and you can use that to do other things. JSON also works to do things programmatically. So we're going to use this in a second. But you can pass in, I do want you to know that you can pass in more than one option using an ampersand. So I can say, name Aaron and location equals Baltimore. And we'll scroll down again here, and we'll see in here, whoa, did I go too far? I went way too far. And you can see here, I have a new thing, location equals Baltimore. Now, it's important to note that these can be right now, because the API isn't, we haven't created the Lambda to respond to anything yet, to like process any data. So we could pass in whatever we wanted. I could have misspellings. I could have any key, any value. I could have no value. None of that matters, because right now, all this is doing is just saying, hey, I see that you passed in, using a question mark, I see that you passed in some query strings for me to use later. Here they are. Just know that I have them, even though you're not doing anything with them. So this is great. Again, I can pass in as many as I want. So I'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions about that piece? I love how you're explaining this. I appreciate that, Elitist Games. Yes, I have thought about joining Live Coders, because I do. I saw that, what's his name? The Prime Again is a part of that group. There's a lot of cool people part of that crew. I don't know if they'll allow me into it, because I'm turning Mastermind. The Mastermind is more than just me now. Like it's becoming a company. We do other things besides just this training, even though Mastermind Academy is probably the biggest piece of it, and will probably always be the biggest piece of it, or at least the biggest outward facing part of it. And the goal of this isn't to sell people a bunch of stuff at all. The goal here is to just give the information away, and it'll always be free. But I'll try to join. I'll see if they'll allow it, but they might not allow it because of their terms. I think one of the first things is like, you must be a person and not kind of an entity. So yeah. Leave it a welcome. Sorry I couldn't respond then. Oh, I really need to turn that off. New to Twitch, hope to see more of your streams. That's awesome. Welcome, definitely welcome. I need to remove that the time. I'll see if I can remove the timeout for that. Do you use Postman? Yes, I do use Postman. I kind of default to curl just because of the nature of the things that I'm normally doing. But I had to just use Postman today. It makes more complex queries a lot easier. So the thing that Quadrant 7 is talking about, everyone, and I think it's worth a download, is a tool called Postman. Check it out. It is a free tool. But what it does is it allows you to, as you're developing APIs, if you need to interact with APIs, it can be notoriously difficult to manage and create the proper requests to make to APIs to know what to do. Like, we haven't put any parameters around our API yet, so we can make whatever requests we want. But for you want to be able to get back the information that you need. So to do so, you need to be able to develop your request perfectly to be able to get that information. And Postman will help you do that. Also, when you're building your own APIs, you can use Postman to test things and to make sure things are working properly and to do some development there. So Postman is pretty cool. Definitely helps out with API development and just interacting with APIs, period. Then I have to watch this one again. I got messed up with the IAM access thing for the user. Yeah. For sure. The IAM access thing, it can be problematic for sure. Definitely try to follow on the high level concepts. You can do a lot of cool stuff with this, and I actually have a walkthrough that I'll add to the classroom that does something a little different than we're doing tonight. That should help as well. How did you get the format in your Chrome? Oh, that is a great question, man. See, you forget about the things that you did. Yeah, how did you get that format in your Chrome browser? Thank you for asking that. So, like, if I go to new incognito, I actually think it'll come out like this, and it'll come out all gross. I got this by this is what it'll probably look like on most of your screens, which is really annoying. Very difficult to read. I deal with JSON every single day. This is a JSON viewer Chrome extension. So if you're using Chrome, go to the web store. So let me see, apps, web store. Maybe I can paste a link to this if you're using Chrome. JSON web viewer. I completely forgot about that. I appreciate that. So, looks awesome. JSON viewer. This is not the one I'm using, but I bet this one works as well. Whoa, this looks cool. Try something like this. There's a bunch of them. There are a bunch of them that you can use. Also, if you do something like, this is a lot of work. Well, more work. But if you have, let's paste this in. Whoops. Now let's hit our endpoint again. If you have something like VS Code, you can, if you can't find an extension because you're using an obscure browser or something like that, you can copy this. I could go into VS Code. I could open up a new file. So file, whoa, this is like shutting me down. New file, and I could paste it in. I think I have to save it first. So save it, and we'll save it as test.json. If you say it's a JSON file, if I right click, if you right click and click format document, so Control-Shift-I, but as long as you save it as a JSON file, and in VS Code, it actually put it in one long line, actually. But if I right click and click format document, it will now format this in a way that's easy to read. Again, JSON more so made for computers to consume rather than people, but you can get it into a format which is nice for you. So you can use this for that. If your browser is being super weird, VS Code will do that for you. So yes, thank you for saying that, because I'm sure it's people who watch, there's a bunch of people who watch the video on demands of this, and they probably would have been like, whoa, like mine does not look like that at all. But yeah, find a JSON viewer that will help you view this stuff. All right, so now what can we do with these? Like we're passing these in. So actually, those are query string parameters. Check out this. This should work by default. I don't think I have to enable anything. So we pass in query strings using the question mark. There. So you can actually, let me paste this in. You all can actually hit this endpoint and do whatever you want. You can do the same things. The extension is, I pasted it above. It's JSON. You just go to the Chrome Web Store and look for JSON Viewer. This one looks cool. This is not the one I'm using, but it looks good. But I pasted it right above yours, right above your comment. And that's it right there. But I just pasted the extension, the endpoint in there. You all feel free to hit that endpoint. You can pass in whatever query params that you want to pass in, and you'll see those query params on your screen, only on your screen. So those were the query parameters after the question mark, but you can also do things like path parameters. So there's query params, and there's also these things called path parameters, and path parameters are null right now. Path parameter will be something like this, and I would do like /name / age or something. And oh, actually, no, so that doesn't work by default. Let me see here. Can I just do one? Do I have to do something special to set up path parameters? I don't know. Path parameters would be the parameters that come after this in the path. In the path that comes along here, you can use those in a similar way. I'm not sure that's not working. I forgot I know I have to do something to allow that. I might have to actually set up a / endpoint to do that as well. But path parameters would allow you to do that too. So you could use the path. This path that maybe we're doing something where we're dealing with an ID of something, and we could pass in like / /subbro / the ID, and we could go ahead and we could grab that. But we're gonna be using query strings tonight because they're easy to kind of deal with, and you can kind of do whatever you want with them. So let's go ahead really quick and let's do something simple with the query param. So let's go ahead and set up a brand new, we're gonna set up a brand new function here. So we're gonna use the same file. We're not gonna complicate it. We're not gonna go crazy and make all these different things. We're just gonna make a brand new function. It's basically gonna look like this. So we're gonna copy basically the main functionality of this thing right here. So we're gonna say def, and we're gonna and we did this last time, but I'm gonna do it again really quick, and we can do something more fun after we do this. But let's say we just want to square a number. So we're gonna create a function called squared num. It's gonna take a simple number. And all it's gonna do is it's going to return. We're basically going to take in a number via the query parameters. So someone can pass in number equals and then whatever number they want to pass in. We want to be able to, we want our endpoint, we want our application, we want our Lambda to be able to accept that number, be able to process it and return the value back to whoever's using it. And so what we can do here to do that is we can go ahead and we can follow the context stuff here and everything, and we can go ahead and return that number. So squared num is what we're going to do. And so to do that, what do we need to do? We need to take in the event still. You always have to take in the event, and you always have to take in the context here. So we got that. We got the event and we got the context. But we don't need to pass in a num. We could set up another thing to do that. But we can take in the event and we can take in the context. Now that we have the event and the context, we know that the event is the thing that we need to use to get the information that we want. So all of this information that came through, this was in the event. So in the event, we got all this JSON here. How do we access the stuff that's in the query string parameters? Maybe we're passing in subbro, maybe we're passing in subbro number equals 2, something like that. And now lets us know that the number equals 2. How do we grab that? Like, how in the world are we going to grab that thing here? So let's go ahead and let's figure out exactly what we want to do that. So square number, the way that we get this is we'll set it to a variable, and we can say your num that you enter. We can call this whatever we want, whatever variable that we want. But the way that you get it is you can use these like the bracket notation to in Python particularly. In JavaScript, it would be pretty simple. So like in JavaScript, it would be something like event dot So you basically go down the line. So everything on here is a different level. So if I everything at input is right here. So event is the top level, and then the next level down from event to get to where we need to go would be query string parameters, and then under that would be 2. So the way that we would access it in JavaScript would be like this: event, query parameters, number. All right, so you just kind of go, whoops, I missed the cue here. You just kind of go down the line, starting from the highest level, and you would go down into the JSON to grab the information that you want. The same thing works here. But you can do this, you have to do this now through bracket notation here. So it is actually like this. So you still use event as the thing. We're passing in event here. So we still want to use event and grab the data from event. So instead of this, you want to do a bracket here, and this actually needs to be a string, I believe. Pretty sure this needs to be a string, maybe not. We'll check this in a second. You do that, and then you just need to open up another one. And instead of dots, these both need to be like this. So it needs to be our event for this your num to be hit. We need event to have a query string parameter that has number in it. And so the way that we're building this out right now, this is the information that you will provide to the world. When you're writing your documentation for your API, you would say, hey, to make a request to be able to square a number, you would hit this endpoint with these query parameters. These query parameters are required. These ones are optional to do certain things. So this is us basically saying, hey, we need a number query parameter for this to work. And then this would, we could take that. And let's just say, let's go ahead and respond. Let's create a response. So we're just copying basically this, the paradigm of this. And we're gonna say response equals, make some JSON here just because JSON is what we're using and we're just getting some practice with APIs in the web. Let's go ahead and say the response is message. And the message is actually simply your num. So let's start with this and then let's return response. Actually, I think we need a status code or it'll be all weird. I think we're just gonna copy kind of what we have. So you can use what you have available to you as a template. I probably should have copied this, like copied and pasted this so we could see. So we're basically editing the exact same thing that we know is already working. So we have a function here that says hello, and we have a function here that says squared num. So squared num is gonna, if you pass in a query string parameter called number, it's going to basically set that equal to this, and then it's gonna return basically the same thing that you passed in. We could do this, but how does, what we're gonna do first? We're gonna comment out all this stuff. No, we're not commenting all this stuff. Right now, I could save this. I could try to hit this 1,000,000 times. This would never run. Why would this never run? Let's open up our serverless YAML. Why wouldn't this run? Let's take a look at the everything on the left basically defines the API gateway. And that relationship is set up there. And everything on the right is essentially the code that we're running. This function over here, we defined a function of hello, which is actually the name of this function here. And we let it know what to run, handler.hello. This file is called handler.py, and our handler is this file, and handler.hello defines this function, and it responds to this event at this endpoint. Let's go ahead and set up a new section, a new function and endpoint for this next piece to work at. So hello, and let's call this one squared. All right, so you squared. This needs a handler. What do you think the handler would be? If this one for hello is handler.hello, what's this one gonna be? This handler is simply gonna be handler because we're using the same file. So this file is still the handler. And this handler is going to be squared num. So it's basically saying for this function, for the squared function, we want this this defined function handler.squaredNum to be the thing that that processes it, that gets triggered. And then we need to also set up some events for it to make it actually work. So we're also going to do the HTTP. So we're copying, and then we also need to do path. We need to give it a new path. We should give it a new path. So we're just going to call it squared. We'll call it just square. We'll call it just square. I'll call it squared. All right, so this is going to be the path that we go to square it, and then we're going to use the same method. Get is fine. We don't need to do, for this, it doesn't really matter. You can use whatever method we want. So we've created a whole new function. So we had the hello function. We wrote some new code here, and we modified our function section to have a new endpoint, which is /squared, that responds to GET requests. That the function that handles this is actually the squared num function and not our hello function. So we haven't actually squared the number yet. We just want to see if this function does anything yet. So basically, we are simply going to body equals. Do we need a body? We probably need a body, and let's just make the body instead your num. Let's make a message. Here is your number that you passed in, and then we'll set the body to be status code. What in the world? Why? Hold on. Let me close this side because I'm confused. All right, there we go. That's better. This is wrong. I don't know how this status code got up here. Status code, we'll leave the message here. No. Sorry. Leave your num up there. We'll set up the body first. We'll do the same paradigm. Body. The body is going to be equal to X. We want this one up there as well. We do. All right, so we have this here. We'll close this out. So create the body in the same way, just so it's easier to follow. So we have the body down here with the message. We don't need the status code up here, actually. So let's take that. X. We'll paste this back here. All right, we got our body. And in the body, we're gonna set a message, and we're gonna set a number. We can put whatever we want here. We're gonna set your number is your num. This needs a comma up here, and this needs to be closed. All right, so ignore this function down here. We're gonna pass the event in here, and we're gonna grab some information out of it. And that's gonna get set to this variable. We're gonna put that variable in the body. We're gonna put that there in the body, and then we're gonna add this body to the response here. So let's take a look how they did it before. They just said body, and then they put this there. And we can do the same thing. We can just copy this line here, yank it, and then we can paste this right here. Same thing here. So hopefully this time we won't get the whole input stuff. We'll go ahead and we'll get whatever number we passed in. So let's try to deploy this, and let's just see if it works. You know, we made a bunch of changes. Let's see if that worked. My neighbors are arguing. It's pretty disturbing at this time of night. What time zone are you in? That's interesting. Yeah, what are they arguing about? That is very interesting. They're a young couple. Typo in context. I'll fix that if I'll fix that. Let's see, typo in context. So actually, before I changed any of that, what's up, Smitty McDougal? Welcome to the channel. Thanks for following. So you can see here now I actually have 2 endpoints, which is super nice. Whoa, I have 2 endpoints. One called squared, one called subbro. Subbro is what we had. Now we have square. So this section utilized our serverless.yaml to set up the other endpoint. And then we also have 2 functions here. So we have a hello function, which we talked about, and we have the squared function. What's up, generic username something. I'll wait till it pops back up. It disappeared before I can read it. I'll wait till it pops up at the bottom, but welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. So that's not true. It did deploy. That does not mean it's good. It could fail. It could like die. So we get an internal server error, which is probably the problem. But if we pass in, this one we're supposed to pass in, what is supposed to pass in? A number equals 2. Yeah, so I actually think you're right. I actually think there's a typo in there, which caused some problems. So just because it deployed does not at all mean it worked. I have error in context. Context, there we go. So let's go ahead and redeploy. Let's go ahead and update our stuff there. So, okay. It's gonna go through and it's going to, so this is part of the reason why, well, it wouldn't have saved this here, but it's part of the reasons why I like compiled languages, because this can happen. All right, so deployed. But now we have this endpoint here, and I'm not going to pass in anything. And let's see if we hit it, if anything happens. When we do that, we get an internal server error squared. Let's see if we can pass in something like number equals 2. So this doesn't work. This is not working for us right now. Let's see if we can figure out why it does not work. So it's important to note that it's very important to note that these the way JSON works, the way that these contexts and events work, it's always generally very not always, but it's generally very interesting. I found there's been a lot of times when you think something should work just fine, and it doesn't. First, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're grabbing your num properly. We'll make sure we're setting that right. Then we'll make sure we are passing that into the response properly. And let's check that out really quick. Make sure we're not missing anything here. But it should just return that stuff right now. Query string parameters, number is what I passed in. The query string parameters here. Squared num. Make sure we set that up right. All right, that looks good to me. That looks pretty good to me. Let's take a look at the serverless.yaml. Are we doing everything right? There is handler.squared num, exactly what we want. Are we hitting the squared endpoint, or are we hitting the square endpoint? Now we're hitting the squared endpoint here. Everything looks good so far. Status code was misspelled in line 2. Got it. You see that? You see that? You did all the hard work for me, because your boy is not the best typist. That should be fine. That shouldn't matter. Oh, actually, yeah, it should. Yep. I don't know. Status. I don't think that's it, but it might, because it's not getting 200 back. It's possible. Let's check. Let's see what's going on. This goes back to if he did it in Word. In Word, it would have fixed the typos. That is, you are Boss 7. You are right. You've made the case. If I had Microsoft Word installed on here, I would edit this in Microsoft Word, and everything would be great. So let's go ahead and hit that endpoint again. Obviously, we didn't pass anything, so internal server error. Let's see, name equals 2, and it still doesn't like that. I'm sure we have a very small problem here. Let's see what's going on here. I don't know what's happening to our code right now. I'm just making sure I have everything set up. Number equals 2 and not name. Oh, am I typing in a name? Is that what I've been doing the whole time? Hold up. Hold on. Man. Okay, you're right. Thank you. I was going to go down a whole rabbit hole, all because I was moving too fast and I'm kind of tired. But I typed in name instead of number. But when we type in something proper, and when we type in what we've defined for the API endpoint, we go ahead and we get back what we want. So message, here's your number that you passed in. Your number is 2. So I passed in 2. What's up, dear Watson? Thank you for the follow. What's up, Developer XIO? Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, so 2, if we change the number to 5, if we change the number to 67, it will all work. And so right now it is taking in what we passed into it. So it basically used this query string parameters to pull out of that JSON. It pulled out of the event JSON our number that we passed in. And so we could use that to go ahead and develop our response. Now, how could we, let's see, we want to use this endpoint to square this number. How can we square this? We can try first by just doing some simple math. Now, this is not going to work because it's inside JSON, but I just want to show you this. So we don't want to times it by 2. We want to take it to the second power. So it'll be something like this for Python, or we can just times it by itself. This is going to fail, but I'm going to deploy it anyway to show you that this is like something that makes sense. Like if you were thinking about how to do it and you were like, hey, how do I make my number squared? And you basically just multiply it by itself. And see if you can pass it through. But we're going to go ahead and deploy this, and this will fail. It'll deploy fine because it doesn't care about our code, but it will fail. You made changes to the serverless YAML. Yes, I did make changes to the serverless YAML. We made changes to allow it to have another endpoint, which is the squared endpoint, and so that it referenced a secondary function, which is this squared function here. So I'll show you that again. So these are the changes we made. We basically took everything that was right here and we copied it again. And we're using the same handler file. So we referenced a new function. We wrote a new function in there called squared number. So whenever we hit this endpoint, it will now use this singular function to respond to rather than the hello function. It will use the one that we created whenever we go to /squared. So that is the change that we made here. And everything is looking good so far. So if we try to do this now and you refresh, you now get an internal server error. You get an internal server error because of what we did. I let you know it wouldn't work, that it would break. But this handler, this is JSON. This JSON is not, you can't use it to parse the information that you want to parse. So you would have to do this before it gets here. So I could do it like this. I could do something like this. Your num comes in. So right here, we have a number and we could say something like, I don't know that this is a string. I mean, this is the integer, but we can check in a second, or we can cast it. So I can say basically squared num square num is now equal to your num squared. So I'll make sure this is an integer because I don't know if it's an integer or a string, but that's what we'll square it. And then we have to handle it basically outside of the JSON. You can't do this type of thing inside of the JSON here. And then we'll just put in square num. All right, so we're gonna square it and then we're gonna get this number and we should get the squared version of our number. And now that we're actually doing something, we could say here is the squared number of, here's the squared value of the number you inserted. Sure, that works. All right, so take a look at this. This is yes, it's kind of weird because we're using this event in this context thing, but we're basically, the event gets passed in, it has URL information. We're grabbing information out of that URL, which is the number that we're passing in. We're gonna square it. So we're gonna, process it a little bit. We're gonna process some data, and then we're gonna formulate a response. So we're setting up our response here, and then we actually respond. So that is kind of the nature of how web requests are gonna work, to be honest. But let's see if this works. So it updates pretty quickly. But what I do like is that it's not a crazy difficult function. It can be, again, not knowing JSON will make this look very confusing. And then again, this event and this context thing make it kind of complicated. But not a ton of stuff here. But you could write an entire thing here to set up your own little calculator, basically, that does multiplication and division and all this other stuff. But yeah, can you put YAML in it? You can really put whatever you want in it. I don't think I have to. I don't think I have to return JSON. I don't think. But I'll see. JSON is just a common thing. We'll see if we can return something else other than this. You can kind of return whatever you want, I'm pretty sure. So we'll check that in a second. But if I refresh this, look at that. Here is the squared value of your number. We passed in 67 and we get 4,489. If we just pass in 6, we should get 36. So we get that. 6 times 6 is 36. So our endpoint is working how we want. And it's working pretty simple. You just use, people can, now any of you can, grab this, take this endpoint, you can change the number, and now any of you can put together a request to square a number. I don't know why you would be on a computer that didn't have access to a calculator, but you could write a whole application that used endpoints like this to be able to do mathematic functions. But you can start to see this is a very simple use case, but you could use this to do anything. You could use this to do almost anything, to process any type of data. So there might be a use case, again, where we take some data and we post. Maybe you sign up, and actually let's set this up real quick. Let's just set something up really quick, real quick. Message, internal server error if you use a decimal number. Why do you think that is? It will probably work. It will probably work if you use a dot. If you use a dot zero. It will probably work if you use a dot zero. Let's see. So if I use a decimal, 5.6, internal server error, but I think if you use a 5.0, it doesn't work either. I figured that would work because I think usually you can type cast to integer. That's not working because those floats won't be cast into an int because these ints are whole numbers. And that is why you're going to get that internal server error. So that is a good catch. You must be a test engineer because you immediately broke our function. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. So we could build it in to do that. Or we can just do float, to make it work with any number. My middle name is a segmentation fault. I like that. All right. Let's see. Let's make a quick, one last endpoint. Let's do a post. This one will get a little more interesting because we'll have to change the way we're doing this request. But let's just set up a different endpoint real quick. Already 10. We'll just run through this. We usually run a little late on the DevOps days. Let's go ahead and do another handler. So maybe we want to do a shopping list. Maybe we want to do a shopping list. And we won't have to save anything, but maybe we set up def shopping. Actually, we'll call it shopping list. And again, it's going to take an event. It's going to take the context. All right. So we have this function here. let's say we want to pass in, so we want to grab the items from the list. Oh, actually, I actually don't know if we can do this. I actually want to try. We're gonna try something in a second. So I can say, let's just, pretty simple. This will be a dumb shopping list because we would have to add things one at a time. Let's say everything on the shopping list, this is a dumb shopping list. It can only accept one item at a time. So we can say something like our item, again, equals, and then we can copy this basically, and we can say, and get, actually, let's paste this. Let's say our item is equal to event, query string parameters, item. Let's say they have to pass in something called item. They can only pass in one, maybe. So let's see what happens if we pass in more than one, but item, cool. So that's gonna grab a query parameter called item. We've done this before already. We know that we can pass in this and we can pull that out of the JSON using this setup. All right, so maybe we want to use, maybe we only want to respond only to a post message, and maybe this is going to add this to a shopping list. Maybe we have a shopping list saved somewhere else. It's important to note that these Lambdas, there's a couple of things we didn't talk about specifically about Lambdas, but one, these Lambdas, each time it's invoked, it's kind of initiating a new thing. So they need to be, these applications need to be stateless. Like they can't persist data to the Lambda, like you would have to put it somewhere else. So if we were making a shopping list and we were updating it over and over again with different things, we would actually need to save that shopping list elsewhere and not inside the Lambda. So we're not gonna do that yet. We're not gonna do that tonight. We're just going to accept a post. And in that post, we are just going to we're going to follow a lot of what we have here. I just want to show you a different method and the difference of how we have to actually use that method. So let's copy everything else here. Let's copy all the stuff in square num. Let's yank it back down. Let's paste it. All right. So real simple. We got the shopping list. We're gonna grab the item, and we're gonna say, "What's up, EasyJS407?" I don't think I said welcome and thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. So what we'll do here is we will say item is simply going to be our item. Whoops. And then our message is going to be something a little bit different. So we know this is a different endpoint. We're going to say, I actually don't know if this will work the same, but we'll see. We'll see in a second. I should be able to post query params this way. But message is going to be, here is the item that you need to buy next time you go to the store. All right, that's gonna be the message, and we're just gonna paste out our item. Very simple. This is just like the hello one. This is very similar to the hello one, and it's just gonna spit out the item that we pass in, but this time it's gonna be a post method. We're gonna use a whole different post method. So we have this here, but what do we need to do to make sure this runs? We've created a brand new, let's put some space in between this one too. Created a brand new function. How do we make sure it gets run? And actually, what do we call that? We called it shopping list. We did call it shopping list. We can vim our serverless.yaml, and let's go ahead and let's set up another function. So we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna yank this, and we're gonna paste it, and we're gonna call this shopping. And the handler needs to be the function in which we need to use. So I think this one was shopping list is the function we called, and we'll put it at slash list. I don't know, we're just messing around. And the method this time is going to be a post and not a get. So get has been the one that we generally need, that we've generally been using. We're going to do a post this time, and you're going to see how we have to do this a little bit differently. Do it a little bit differently. So save it. Let's go ahead and deploy that. All right. That's the mastermind swag IO you need to buy. Hey, we're gonna be super swaggy. I'm getting some stickers soon, just for my own, attachment to my water bottle and some other stuff. But swag's definitely incoming. I think I told you guys this before, but I really dislike cheap t-shirt swag. I like them when they're free for me at conferences and stuff. Most of the things, this was a free swag shirt. This was from O'Reilly. Not really shouting them out, but I went to their conference, was good. But if I'm gonna get swag, I'm gonna get real swag, and it's gonna be super fresh, and I'm gonna be excited about it. Yeah, don't go cheap. I'm going for quality for sure. I'm going for quality swag. If I'm gonna do it. I'm definitely gonna do it, just because, swag's cool. Gives you a reason to buy cool clothes. But I don't know, one day. But I'm gonna grab some stickers soon. If anyone's interested in stickers, I'll throw it out there. I was getting them for myself, but enough people have asked about them. I might keep some around to hand out to people and just, I don't know, promote streams and stuff. I'll definitely do that. Shoot, I wish. Actually, if anyone knows anyone at Under Armour, I knew people at Under Armour, but they have since left. If you know anyone at Under Armour, tell Under Armour they should sponsor us. You should sponsor this channel, so we can do some cool stuff. Because they're also in Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore. We got a lot in common. I actually go to the Under Armour gym. There's an Under Armour gym around here. That's the gym that I go to. So Under Armour would be great. Perfect. You called it out. Uno Plank LaCroix. Under Armour and LaCroix, the perfect blend of sponsorships. That would be amazing. And we're gonna have to make that happen. Under Armour and LaCroix. But I'm definitely gonna grab some stickers though. And I'll post them whenever I have them again. I promise you guys, I will never push a bunch of merch on you guys at all. I'll make them available, but it's not hey, everyone come grab this merch. That's never, I promise you, that's never going to be this channel. Never going to be this channel. You'll have that option if you want it, but never. Get off the treadmill and sit down. Oh, and drink a LaCroix in one gulp. Done. Instant classic. We're recording that. We are making a commercial that's exactly that. And it's going to come soon now. Now, it's gonna hurt. I'm gonna have to really commit to chugging a LaCroix. It's gonna hurt, but we'll do it. What's up, everyone who just followed? A couple people just followed. Tom Talks, you followed, and someone it'll pop up. Sorry, I didn't get to immediately say something. I'm also sorry you have to wait 10 minutes to say anything in the chat. But yeah, what color LaCroix is your favorite? My favorite color LaCroix is I guess it's the pink and white one, which is I think it's passion fruit. That's my new favorite. Besides that, is yellow, is lemon. Super simple. That you can't go wrong with lemon. Lemon and lime, we've already talked about it before. Lemon and lime do not. If you mix them, they do not make Sprite. Don't do that. It is not good. Maybe I have the ratio wrong. Maybe you have to add in more lemon than lime. But equal parts lemon and lime do not make a Sprite-like beverage. So don't do that. It's nasty TV static if you mix it up, but one-on-one, they're pretty good. So I didn't read up on the serverless. So the body is returned as JSON implicitly when you return the response. No, we are dumping the JSON in here. It's not. So take a look at the handler. The body is dumped as JSON into here. That's a good question though. I actually don't know what will happen. We'll see after we run this, we'll see what will happen if we remove the JSON.dumps. I don't think it'll process it properly. I think it will probably just stick it through as a string, I believe, but we'll see what happens to check it, but it's not implicitly do it. The JSON.dumps is what implicitly makes it a body. Explicitly, not implicitly, explicitly makes it JSON. I'll try that work. Yeah. So we've been trying some new flavors. I really dislike the coconut, but I don't like coconut, period. It's a little too strong for me. But all the rest of the stuff is fine. Like berry is fine on its own. It's not good with anything else. But yeah, so check this out. We now have a third endpoint, which is now a different method. It is a post. So when we try to hit this list, it's actually not going to work. When we actually hit the shopping list, we can click it. It's actually not going to work. And we're supposed to pass in an item equals maybe like mustard. Now, I don't know why that would be on your list, but it gives you a missing authentication token. This is just I actually dislike API Gateway for some reasons, because sometimes this is an incorrect error. It's basically letting us know that we basically have the wrong method here. So we need to pass in a different method. We need to be able to pass in a different method. You can do this in your browser. I don't know how to do it in your browser. But this is when something like Postman would come in handy, and I don't know if I have Postman installed. Postman has a little bit of a learning curve to set it up. I'm not going to use Postman to do this real quick, but I do think it is something. This is me giving you something to kind of go along and play with. I'll leave this endpoint up. See if you can access it via Postman. See if you can build a post request here. We're going to do it with curl. So let's hit one of the other things. So let's copy this. And squared, the squared one works. Take a look at what if I use the command line to do this, and I'll just do this so there's more space, and I curl, and I'll just do -I just to get the headers, and do this. I got a 403 forbidden because I didn't put anything in there, but this was supposed to be a number, I think. So number equals 2. And I still get a 403. That's interesting. Let me take away just the headers only. All right, so we get our message. Here's the square number of your number inserted. Your number is 4. So we were able to hit this endpoint via the via the command line that gives us the same thing so that we were getting before. So again, we can make it 56 and we get a much larger number. We change it to float, so that does work. To hit the endpoint that we have here, the endpoint that we've created over here, the post endpoint, it's easier to do this through something like curl. Oh my gosh, I just want to copy it. It's like killing me. I actually don't like that it's clickable within the terminal. We can do this here. So I'm going to Google this for you just so you can see the options that you have via. We could look at the man page too, but again, the fastest way you would do something like this is say, how do I post via curl? And so you can pass in a different request type. Curl allows you to, again, do everything that you do in the browser, allows you to pass in different things. A -X is how you change the request type to put or post. What's up, Rafael Cristaldo? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. But I'll copy this and I'll add in the -X here. So I'll do curl -X, actually I'll just paste it, post, and then I'll hit this. So I'll run this and I'll still get an internal server error. I did not pass in what we needed. I'll do question mark item equals mustard. And check this out. We get a response. Here's the item that you need to buy next time you go to the store. The item is mustard. So to accept a post, if I pull off this post, it will give us this error that we were getting. If I put back, if I change the post to a put, if I change it to a put, I'll get this missing authentication token here as well. Yeah, so I can only use a post method to get that. And again, if I change it to post, and whatever I want greens. It will say greens. And so you could store that to a list and throw it in an S3 bucket, throw it elsewhere, append that to a list elsewhere. But just like that, we were able to very quickly make some endpoints using, we don't have a server. We didn't have to set up a server to do this stuff. Using this, we could simply define some endpoints. We could use the serverless.yaml to define some endpoints, which were these. And we made some functions in the file. And so again, you could do whatever you want. You can, as long as it runs and processes in 15 minutes, you're good to go. You're definitely good to go. Serverless.yaml. This is what my serverless YAML looks like here. Two get endpoints and a post endpoint. I'm also going to show you what the API gateway looks like as visually, so that you can see that as well. Your Linux setup yet? No, I did not. That video is it's so close to being done. I'm using Pop OS. That video setup is not is not up. I'm sorry. I haven't put out any videos though. That's been the one that's been in the queue for forever. I had a bunch of problems with this custom build. I couldn't actually I couldn't render out any videos, but I got all that sorted out. I got a new graphics card and everything. I'm hoping to get some, I have some stuff that's happened recently that's opened up some bandwidth for me, has provided some bandwidth. So I should be able to get to more of that. I'm really trying to get to the point where I'm putting out 1 or 2 videos a week. I have like a whole backlog. I have a bunch of half recorded unedited videos because video editing takes just that long. But I'm getting good at it. I'm getting a lot better at it. So it's coming for sure. For some reason, none of my endpoints are displaying on deploy. Oh, interesting. When you do your SSLS deploy, it only displays the original sub row. Are you? Oh, I bet you it's a. I bet you it's a YAML. I bet you it's a YAML problem. The same as his when I deploy serverless. I bet you these need to be lined up. So hello needs to be lined up with squared, needs to be lined up with shopping. I bet you it's a YAML thing. And all these things need to be lined up. That is the problem with YAML. Not problem, but that is the white space matters here as well. Try that. Make sure those things are lined up. Make sure those things lined up. Can you show the handle.py? Yes, I can push this to GitHub as well, so that you guys can grab it whenever you want, including right now. But I'll show you that as well, and then I'll push it to GitHub. Oops. And you could use this exact code to spin up whatever you want. So I'll leave it here for a second so you can see the squared number stuff. And then I'll scroll down a little bit in a second so that you can get that. But hopefully I do want people to, it's not imperative that serverless is it's utilized a few places. Hold on. 1 second. I need to respond to this text really quick. Serverless is great. It's great. It's not utilized everywhere. The paradigm of serverless is interesting. Applications and tools that are built around this need to be developed and built accordingly. You need to be able to think about them in a way that works with this paradigm. Doesn't always, everything doesn't work out of the box for this. You kind of need to build around this model. It's great for Lambdas and stuff like this. Is great for jobs, processing jobs, again, things that run for less than 15 minutes, things that are event driven. So if you want something to take action, again, maybe that shopping list thing, you could actually have it. Maybe I don't know why you would want to do something like this either, but maybe you have an S3 bucket where people are someone's dropping in shopping lists. Maybe you can have a Lambda that grabs that information and says, oh, a new shopping list is in the bucket. Let me go ahead and grab that. So it'll grab that file. It'll process that data. Maybe you have that thing do some web scraping. Python's very good at web scraping. And maybe you have it check your favorite website or your favorite grocer or something like that. So maybe you use a Giant or Whole Foods or something. And maybe you hit the website you take that shopping list, you grab all the information, the Lambda grabs all the information out of it, and it scrapes Whole Foods for the prices of all this food. And maybe it grabs all that and then it puts together a little pricing sheet with a total of how much your stuff will currently cost if you went and bought it. I mean, yes, it's certainly a thing that you could very easily do. A lot of you could scrape that, make it really cool, and right before you go to the store, you can know how much you're going to pay once you get there. But yeah, your Beautiful Soup is the package for that, but it's pretty cool. The Spotify playlist is it's the Chill Hop playlist. Let me grab I need to put this below too. Copy playlist link. Let's go ahead and paste this. It scrapes when Mastermind posts new swag item and orders it for you. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great if you wanted to do that. I probably won't post new swag often at all. But yeah, you can use that. Web scraping is really cool. We're actually going to do a little web scraping tomorrow on the Python bootcamp. We're going to be doing some Python scripting. So we're going to be doing a little bit of web scraping tomorrow as well. We won't spend a ton of time learning how to do it, but we're going to throw together a file to implement it very fast where you can just kind of change the URL and start picking stuff out. But yeah, we're doing a Python automation little lab tomorrow if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Python and how you can do some of that stuff there. But that is let me scroll down a little bit more for this. Someone was looking at this. I'll push this to GitHub really quick so you guys have access to it. And you can use this, you can literally grab this directory real quick, and you can literally run an SLS deploy as long as your AWS stuff is set up, and it will deploy the same endpoints that I have. It'll be different. The endpoint will be different, like the URL will be different, but it'll do the same things, and you can modify it accordingly. A couple great things about Lambda. If you're worried about cost and pricing, Lambda gives you 1 million invocations of Lambda for free per month. So every time you invoke that endpoint, that is one invocation. So you're good. I don't think you'll ever have to pay for Lambdas. Even after that, it's really cheap. You do have to also pay for the amount of CPU and things used, but there's a significant amount of free processing there as well. So you can do a lot for a tiny bit of money or no money at all in Lambda. So don't worry, don't sweat about that at all. I don't actually think there's any pricing on API Gateway. I don't think. Could be completely wrong. That sounds wrong, but sounds super wrong, but I don't. Okay, API Gateway free tier includes 1 million HTTP calls, 1 million REST API calls, and 1 million messages. So yeah, so essentially it's free. Essentially it's free for first year. So yeah. So you shouldn't have to worry about anything with that. I mean, I don't think you'll hit that. I hope you don't hit that. See a full-blown thing from your DevOps days, unconference chat. Yeah. I mean, what's up? What's up, Pot Liquor? Yeah. I mean, a lot has happened since then. So yeah, we're moving. Are you going to DevOps Days this year? I'll be at DevOps Days this year. Hopefully doing a talk at DevOps Days this year. We'll see what they accept. If not, maybe I'll do like a what's it called? A lightning chat or something as well. What time are you going to go live for the Python Lab? 8 p.m. every night. I think I told people I'm also streaming on Friday this week, just doing like an office hours thing, playing some games, just relaxing, winding down from the week. Probably start a little bit earlier. Probably start about 7 p.m. Eastern time. Again, just having some fun. We'll play some interactive games. I'll probably start out playing like Overwatch or something myself. If anyone wants to play, let me know. But then we'll probably hop into some Jackbox games or some multiplayer games that people can kind of play with each other over their phone or something. I don't know. We'll have some fun. We'll just come ask questions, come chill, come talk about whatever. Anything you've been wondering about. I don't know. We'll see where the night takes us. If not, it'll just be a good session to just relax and wind down from the week. Maybe talk about what we learned and I don't know, just relax. What's up, RH Codes? Welcome to the channel. That's probably what we'll do Friday evening. So if you're around, check it out. You won't miss out on anything as a part of the boot camp. So just a little bit of wind down time. There are some limits around Lambdas for sure. I don't think you'll hit them while you're just trying to mess around and mess around and play around. I don't think so, but you know, someone's gonna push that limit. Cool. I'll see you there, Hot Liquor. Appreciate the sub. Appreciate the tier 1 sub. Welcome to the family. If you do ! Discord, you can get into, it'll give you the information. If you join the Discord in the general channel, it's pinned. There's a Google Classroom with some extra things in it. And yeah, it's extra things with some Google Classroom with extra things in there. I need to fix the automation for it, get all the stuff up to date in there. But you can, if you're subbed, you can go ahead and you can grab that. But that is it for tonight. That was good. Let me push this to GitHub real quick and give you the link for it. Darn, I feel like this entire CD serverless. You know what? Don't I already have a? Oops. Don't I already have a repo for DevOps? Let's find out. I think I have an old repo for what we did last year too, which was different than this. But we have Python Bootcamp 2020. And we have DevOps Bootcamp Jan 2020. I have no idea where this folder is though, but we're gonna go, Bash Lab, wherever the Bash Lab is. I said I need to fix all this stuff. Okay. Is it here? I need to move everything. All right, so here's what we'll do. We will get, we'll copy -r //. What file, what directory was this in? Serverless and Stream API. We'll copy this here. So now we have the checkpoint lab stuff here as well. We'll add this. So get status. We'll add everything. -m, added, check, point lab, and serverless lab. All right. Oh man. Okay, so I'll give you the link here. It should have everything in here now. All right, cool. So you can copy from here, you can download from here, or you can copy, you can download, or you can clone the information that's here and you can just steal this to deploy whatever you need. What we did tonight, if you want to check against your own things. Great question. Is there a way to see a log for the Lambdas? I'm getting an internal server error on my post route. Yes, there is a way to see the logs. By default, I don't know if serverless sets it up by default, but CloudWatch is where you would go to see the logs. So you go into CloudWatch logs, and they're pretty annoying. I'm assuming they set up, yes. So you can see here, it set up some log groups for my 3 different things here. So if I go to shopping is the one we had with the post. In here, it's hard to see, but it just shows you when it started, when it ended. So the first time we had an error, you get this, I got this none type error, and it's because I didn't pass in an item. So you probably need to pass in an item to your post request, or it won't work. You need to do $item. But it sucks because by default, it doesn't give you much logging. You have to put in logs manually. So we would have to put in, like, we could do things like Stream API. Like, you can add some handlers. And again, these are, I'm not expecting anyone to know Python, but you could do something like, you can make it not give a server error by doing something like try this. So I could try to do this. So it'll try to set our item to this value, but if it's not there, we could go accept accept. And I could say maybe our item equals blank or something. And then we could do something like if our item equals blank, like return something else. Or we could do console.log. Sorry. One second. She knows that guy. She's friendly. She knows who.
No, I just want to make sure we're good.
Oh, yeah.
We're supposed to swipe anyone at that garage. We're all square.
All square.
All right, well, it was a pleasure working with you.
Sorry, got a little visitor here, and are you good? You okay? All right. Sorry, got a little visitor here, and she's she's actually really nice. As soon as we opened it, she's super nice. So sorry about that. But yeah, that is you can add in some console logs here, and everything would work. But that's all we're gonna do tonight. I need to take care of this to get her out of here. She's extra amped now. But yeah, check it out. Play around with this stuff. Try some new stuff. Try modifying it. See what you can do with it. Should be pretty, I don't know. See what you can do with it. Reach out in the Slack or in the Discord if you need help, or if you do something cool with it. Let us know. Let us know what you did with it. But yeah, hope everyone got a lot out of that. I don't know. We did not raid anyone last night, but is anyone online that I know about? I don't think Dowright's online. I don't think anybody's online right now. Do people not stream on Tuesdays? What's today? Today is Tuesday. I don't know. Let's see who can we raid tonight. Anyone got any options for rating? Again, what are we doing? So next week we're hopping into infrastructure as code. So Sunday is Terraform. Terraform is great. So if you're interested in Terraform is on Monday. Yes, Terraform's Monday. And Ansible is on Wednesday. Not Monday. Sorry. Terraform is Sunday. Ansible's Tuesday. And then if you're in the Python bootcamp, we're doing a lab tomorrow. And then we're going to hop into, I think, object-oriented programming next week. Finally. I think we're finally going to make it there. Get good. Errors and handler scripting. Yeah, we're going to object-oriented programming next week. So, yes, I have checked out Pulumi. I think Pulumi's cool. I do think Pulumi's cool. I don't think I don't know. I think it works for, I think it's a great product for developers. I don't know. I think Terraform is just too far ahead, but it looks good. I tried it out. It looks like it's actually made significant progress since the last time I checked it out. Yeah, so I don't know. Nick Wan, data side, cool. That works for me. We can go ahead and see that person. All right, cool. That's it for tonight, everyone. Thank you for the great stream. I'll see you all either tomorrow or next week. Let's go check out this new person, Nick Wan. I like that. Let's raid. Let's head over to see that person. And appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words for the great stream. Thank you very much, the ego. All right, 10 seconds. We're gonna head on over. Everyone have a good night. Let's show data size, Nick Wan data size, a little bit of love. Say what's up, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.